But just outside the ancient walls of the city, in the Benelli factory, there is much in the way of news. Last time, there were 2 robots loading billets of aluminum into the milling fixtures, Bertolo, and Cirillo the juggler with his 2 hands, loading and then retrieving fully machined receivers when the clamping fixtures return from the machining line. When we first visited, there were 2 machine lines running under fully automated computer controls. Now there are 8 lines, with each turning out identical parts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It is a multi-billion-dollar investment in high-technology manufacturing needed to meet the worldwide demand for inertia-driven shotguns. And there are now more skilled workers on the factory floor, assembling those parts into completed shotguns. Even the Italian government proofing house has been expanded with more personnel to handle the testing and certification of many more shotguns than in years past. But the big news is the guns themselves. 5 years ago, cryogenic treatment of shotgun barrels was experimental. Now, Benelli barrels are frozen for 24 hours at minus 125 degrees Celsius. That's 200 degrees below zero on the Fahrenheit thermometer. The treatment smooths the inside of the barrel, and with the new longer choke tubes, produces more compact shot patterns.
This is the shape of the pellet flying after the shot, and as we can see, the shape is very long and is not the best for catch the target, because the best is this shape.
The high-speed photography shows the improvement from the cryo treatment. Smoother steel means less friction to string the pattern out, and less shot deformation produces more evenly distributed shot patterns on the target. While still controversial in the USA, Benelli has the evidence to make the treatment standard in their best autoloaders. But cryo-freezing isn't the biggest news from Benelli. It's the new stock design that Benelli calls the ComfortTech system. The combination of a gel pad on the comb, a gel pad at the butt, and the chevrons in the stock with rubber inserts that allow the stock to flex and absorb recoil.
The gel pad in the cheek reduces the vibration to your ear. The gel pad in your shoulder absorbs the recoil and reduces the vibration on your shoulder. And the movement of the chevrons and the plastic and rubber together absorb the energy that the gun kicks you.
The computer simulation shows the stock flexing and is the result of 4 years of design and experiment to manage the recoil from today's Magnum loads.
Along 4 years, improving year by year our concept, until the end when we was satisfied by the result, and the result was significantly perceivable by the shooter.
Benelli says the result they achieved is a 20% reduction in recoil compared to the competition. So Benelli shotguns with the 3.5-inch chamber now ship with the ComfortTech system as a standard feature. So now we've given you lots to discuss with your shooting buddies at the Sporting Clays range, like how much does cryogenic freezing of shotgun barrels help improve the pattern? And then there's Benelli's claims of a 20% reduction in recoil. You can't say that in your advertising unless you can prove it. Well, that's what we're doing next, testing with laboratory equipment to see if it's true.
This is Sighting In with Shooting USA, brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, reloading, and gunsmithing.
Here's the ComfortTech system on a new Super Black Eagle II, a gel pad for the cheek piece, a custom-shaped gel pad at the butt, and these rubber-filled chevrons cut into the stock. Benelli has been advertising that these parts together produce a 20% reduction in recoil compared to all other shotguns, whether gas guns or not. Well, as you know, if you want to run ads in this country with that kind of claim, you have to have the evidence to prove it. It is one thing to see the computer simulation of the Comfortech stock compressing under recoil. It's also interesting to see high-speed video of the real stock working against a human shoulder. But none of this proves Benelli's advertising that recoil is reduced by 20%. For that, we need testing. For all the claims about Benelli's Comfortech system reducing recoil, this is the scientific equipment that can prove it. This is a piezoelectric force sensor wired to the computer. It will record recoil when the gun is fired, and we can compare it to the competition. We have Francesco doing the shooting, while the computer charts the force in newtons against time across the bottom of the chart. We're using the same ammunition for all the testing, Federal 3.5-inch classic steel turkey loads. You definitely know you did something when you pull the trigger on these monsters. First up, the Super Black Eagle II with Comfortech. We chart a burst of peak force reading 1,271.88 newtons, followed by a smooth timeline down to zero force. Now, the competition. Francesco straps the force sensor on the Browning Gold Hunter in camo, which weighs a pound more than the Super Black Eagle, a weight advantage that should help with recoil. The Browning charts 1,718.75 newtons of force with a second peak in the timeline.
We are able to record not only the peak force in Newton, but even as the force has been distributed during the cycle. And the first peak is the first beginning of the shot. The last peak is the bolt hitting the rear of the receiver.
It would appear the Browning action needs more damping of the bolt to smooth out the timeline. Now the Remington 1187, which comes from the factory with a limb saver butt pad. Again, it's the Federal 3.5-inch classic steel turkey and goose loads for the testing. The Remington, with the help of the limb saver butt pad, does chart less recoil than the Browning, but way more than the Super Black Eagle at 1,632.81 newtons. And once again, we get shooter disruption in the timeline with that second peak as the bolt slams back. Here are the results. Browning Gold hits you the hardest at more than 1,700 newtons. The Remington comes in second at 1,600, and the Super Black Eagle records just over 1,200 newtons of force with a smooth timeline to help recover for the next shot. In percentages, the Benelli has 30% less recoil than the Browning, 22% less than the Remington, and that will help your bird hunting. Do the charts show that the Benelli can recover faster by dissipating the force more quickly?
The less energy you get, the faster you can get the target.
Aside from feeling better at the end of the day.
Sure.
And deer hunters are about to get the same benefits. The Benelli Comfortech system has proven to be so successful, it's about to be added to the R1 rifle, a tremendous advantage if you're going to be shooting 300 Win Mag. Look for the Comfortech system to turn up shortly on the Benelli rifle, and the company is considering adding the recoil system to the Nova pump gun as well. Call it the best thing to happen to a shooter's shoulder since the creation of Magnum rounds.